Okay, here we are again. Welcome back to my random stream that sometimes happens and sometimes doesn't happen. Hello to Walid Sassi. I think you've been here before. And hello to a new person, Mudshark666. Hello, John, from a slightly frozen Sweden. I'm not a Swift coder at the moment. I just like TDD. Well, then welcome. Glad to have fellow TDDer. Let me, I should say that one of my more popular, yeah, right, Walid in Paris, that's right. Excellent. Glad to have you. And one of the fun things about test-driven development is I really think it should be the way everyone, including children, learn how to code. I use TDD. Most recently, I used TDD to take my first few baby steps in Kotlin. It's just a great way to sort of first set up your system, and then, sometimes that takes a little help, a little doing. It's environmental. And then you say, okay, I'm going to now write a test, and how do I get this thing to pass? I don't know, but I'll find out, right? And as soon as it goes green, then it works. Then you get some help from other folks about how do I make it clean. It's great. It's so much fun. Let's see. Let me mention that there is currently a sale at pragprog.com that if you use the code Turkey Sale 2021, and the place to enter the code doesn't appear until you check out, you get 40% off a whole bunch of amazing books, including, if you go into the iOS section, and there's mine. So, but mine among many, many others. Many, many others. Let's see where we are in our TDD. Overall, I am taking survey results and now able to score what people have entered for problems, desires, and killer features, where each entry has a certain weight. What I really wanted to do was do some whiteboarding, but there's something wrong with my camera. So let me instead use a mural. And let me try to sketch out what we have and sort of where I want to go. Whoa, that's big. That's kind of too big. Let me try there like that. All right, so we've got basically survey input with problems, desires, killer features, right? I'm now also able to actually, yeah, I'll just do this, whatever. Wait, I'm able to score answers by weight accumulated across entries. So that's good. What I really want, though, is I want a list. I want like a top-down list of top desires, and this would be like, I don't know, I'm just making it up. Swift UI with a score. And something else. I don't know. Mocking with some score, where the score is descending, right? So you get, I want my, what's the highest scoring desire? So I could do this now because I can score the answers by weight if I know what to ask for. So I can say, for this, for Swift UI, and I can get a score. What I don't have is a way to kind of go through and iterate over all the entries. So what I need, so that's a want. So the next thing is I need a way to basically gather a list of problems, etc., so that I can then get the scores, and then I also need to sort them. So that'll be sort of the last thing. So here we go. Here's the want. I need that. I also need to then sort of sort by score. So here are a few things. La la. Well, how to do this? The list of problems. If I have, I'm just confirming here and ask. By the way, as always, if you have a random question unrelated to what I'm doing about anything, feel free to put it in the chat. And if I say, yeah, I'm not going to address that, I will say so. But I have never had anyone ask something that I didn't want to answer here in the stream. So feel free at any time to jump in. And if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're not a live watcher on Twitch, but you're watching, well, you can also watch the recordings on Twitch, I guess. But I put all my stuff up on YouTube. And if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to give this a like and give me a follow or whatever it is, and ring the bell or whatever that is, so that you get new videos as I post them. You know what I mean. Now, let's see. So I have this. Let me sort of put in have. I have that. So this is sort of the ultimate goal. These are in the next steps. What I'm wondering is if these really need to be, how separated these should be. Can I gather the list of problems and score them at the same time? And I don't think so. I don't think that makes sense, because I really need to go through the every entry and accumulate every problem, or whatever the category is, into a unique list. So let's say unique. I'm not sure how to put this, but I'll just put it up here. That seems like its own step. Okay, so I think that's the next step. Let's do that. And answer accumulator seems like a good place. The accumulator right now just is able to append all entries and then answer questions. So it seems like maybe you know what, instead of iterating back over the list, I should take each thing as it's appended and keep updating it, so that instead of like building up a list and then walking the list many times once to get like the problems and I should take each entry because they come in individually. You know, why waste performance? It's not so much, you know, whoa, performance. It's cleanliness. It's about expressing what's going on well, I think. It's just cleaner to me. or brighter. I'm trying to switch my language around bright code as opposed to cloudy code. So if we can accumulate them and say, put them into some sort of properties that we can query. Let's do that. And that will go into the answer accumulator. So as usual, we start from running tests. So now I'm switching into TDD mode. I've done my bit of design here. Design meaning what's going to be the attack, not attack. I need to come up with non-violent terms. You know, what's our tactic? How are we going to approach this? I've come up with the approach. So now let me express it in a test. Now we switch to real test-driven development, and let's go. And I'll say, and I'm also going to try something that I've started to teach. I just finished a 6-week workshop, teaching a 6-week workshop, and it was my first time with this material. Let me show you some stuff. Let's see. So first thing, one of the things about sort of the patterns of test-driven development that I don't think I've ever taught before is, what do we do first? First, let's come up with a good name. I want to, let's see, accumulate should gather unique. It shouldn't just pull them all together. It should gather problems into unique list. I'm not sure of what to say. List of unique entries. Should gather list of This is tricky because I'm struggling against English and the idea of like uniquing something as a verb, which is not good English. That's just programmer speak. That's good enough. I don't want to overthink it. Okay, so test first. That is, I'm coming up with the name first. And now let me try to come up with an assertion first. This is my first time to teach this publicly. I want to work backwards. It's an old technique, but I want to lean into it more. So what do I want? I want like, here we have other ways to enter problems and desires and killer features, and P1 and P2, those seem, here we have P1 and P2 and P2 and P3. So the unique list will be P1, P2, and P3 singularize. Yeah, maybe. Language, it's hard. I want P1, P2, and P3. This will be interesting. All right, let me, something is going to, this is very interesting to me because this shows a problem. The problem is, okay, I get something, whatever it is, and I say assert equal P1, P2, P3 because I jam in two entries like this. In fact, let me just copy these. And I can accumulate them. Like that. So, something, the problem is this order. I want it to be sensitive to the contents of the array, but not the order of the array. If this happens to work, this would be very bad because it would force something that isn't actually required. This is where assert, the common assertions are really, I mean, you can use them a lot, but you don't want to overuse assertions. In fact, I think I blog about this. Let's look for equality. Yeah, here. Stop overusing equatables. That's what it is. Let's stop, like, don't make everything equatable because that's probably too strong for some things. What I really want is to say something, something in any order. Now, I could, one way is to sort the array after it comes back and say, this should be equal to that sorted. That might work. The other way to do it would be to use a Swift hamcrest and get some good matchers in place. I'm a big hamcrest fan, but I haven't used it much in Swift. Because what I want is to say contains in any order, like this. Assert that the array contains in any order, and it will report mismatches in one, it'll say exactly what the mismatch was. But let's start with this. Let's start simple. All right, so accumulate, and then this will be like the result. And I want to say let the result equal, where the result is an array of strings, and I want that to be sut dot all problems. Maybe just problems. Something like that. And do I want it to be a property? Maybe. I'm debating, but it's easier to generate if I say make it a function, and then I could turn it in from a function into a computed property. Why don't I'll start this way. Because, okay, so I've now done the name first. I've did the assertion first and sort of worked through some issues, and now I'm ready to do the frame first. The framing of the problem. The system under test already exists, but this method does not. And this I will use caller creates pattern. This is something that Xcode does not have, but AppCode is very handy about, to say here's problems that should return a string. And instead of a fatal error, I'm just going to return an empty array. Because now this should fail. In fact, let me put the P3 up front just to make sure the sorted is is working. I'm checking the output. There we go. So the sorting is good. I'll set that back. So now I've worked through and I have a test failure the way I want it. And not only does it fail, as you see, I was examining the failure output to see how does this work? Is this what I want? And I think that's good. So now let me solve this in the quickest way. This should be a familiar pattern here. If you've done test-driven development, I'm just going to hard code it because I want to get to green. Good. Okay. So now in green, and again, just to confirm, let me change the order because I want it to be insensitive to the order. All right. Cool. So that's good. I've gone now from red to green. There's nothing to refactor yet, but I want to now, this hard coding is obviously not what we want, but it gets the test to pass. The fact that there's hard coding here, the fact that I can look at this code and say, this only works in one case, and that is where the problems are P1, P2, and P3, means that I need another test. But before I do, let me commit. And this is something else new that you've seen me do many times if you've watched my streaming, but I'm now starting to explicitly teach in my workshops, which is that test-driven development, instead of having 3 steps, red, green, refactor, has 4 steps. Red, green, refactor, and commit. That is, commit into your trunk. Push it. Normally, it would be like in trunk-based development, it would be push to your main branch. Here I don't have, it's just local, so I'm just going to say this is a feature. It is under 8 lines. And I commit that. That way, if anything goes wrong, I can just revert. It is the ultimate undo mechanism. All right, let's try again with another input. And I'm just going to be lazy here. Let's see. Let me come up with a... You know, I think I'm doing this a little backwards. That's all right. Here's what I mean. I think I should start with a simpler problem like this, namely 1 entry. So this is multiple entries. No, this is this is with 1 entry, and this is with multiple entries. Let me move this up. All right, so I've got with one entry and with multiple entries. Let me do something here. Let's actually, instead of commenting it out, let me use my snippets here to say, disable this test. I used to comment tests out back in the early days, and you know, that's okay if you're moving like I am, really tight, small, simple. Not so good on a team in more complex code. So let me show, you know, we want to keep the code compiling, but we want to skip the test. So let's get this to pass. Here we go. So we're skipping this. I want to make this the first actual thing. And this will fail. I should have called it first because like that. This will pass. So I found my way from a complicated test with multiple entries to a simple test. In fact, now I hear James Grenning whispering in my ear saying you should really have used zombies, 0, 1, many, because I'm looking at 1 and multiple. I'm missing the 0 case. It's not likely that I will have something with no problems, but let's, you know, I'm not doing this to try to be efficient. I'm doing this to try to share learnings so that we can all learn together. It helps me get better. Hopefully it helps you get better also. So I think I'm finding my way to something interesting, which is with no entries or 0 entries. So it's not going to accumulate anything, and here it should be empty. Let's disable this one. And now I expect it to fail with whatever I've hard-coded because that should be empty string. I mean empty array. So let's get back. Okay, that's a better place to start. So I've worked with, I've kind of worked myself backwards, and this is okay. This is totally fine to say, you know, I'm starting in this direction, and then I realize I need a simpler test. I need a simpler test still. Because if we can keep them simple, then we can move in small, even smaller steps, rather than going for the big finish of like the final result should be this. So this is a good start. Is there anything to refactor in here? Yes. So now I'm green, right? I've basically gone from red to green. And now to refactor, is there anything I want to refactor in here? Well, don't really need the public. That should still pass. Don't need the implicit, don't need the explicit types anymore. So let me again lean on app code to say remove the explicit types now. In fact, let's do that everywhere. Make sure that's still green. And let me commit this before I go further. I get uncomfortable. Restart problems list with simplest test 0. Okay, now I'm in better shape. Now I can concentrate on this. And actually, there's still duplication in here. But let's worry about that after I get this sorted out. I said I wanted probably a computed property, or maybe it's a real property. I don't know yet. I wish there were an intention to convert a method with no arguments and a return value into a property. Let me do something here. Let's say, let me start again here and say, you know what? Let's shift this to a property. I'll say var for now. And this will, the error, it passes. These errors are just ghost errors left over because probably app code still hasn't quite caught up with the changes I made. I'd like to redirect this to problem. Problem is wrong. Back out, back out. Let's change this name. Invalid redeclaration of problems. Because I have problems, the property, and problems, the function, and functions are first-class citizens, which you can, you can hold on to a reference to a function. So things are getting a little tangled here. Let me rename this. See, I'm still green. Multiple. So Mudshark, sorry, I'm catching up on the tweets here. Multiple with duplicates. You mean in the test name? Yeah. Multiple with duplicates. Here are the problems. That's better. A little better test naming here. All right, I've done some refactoring, and so I really want to keep it in a state I can come back to. So this is a test supported refactoring. So I use the key R here and say renaming starting to add property. And now this should return oh wait, is it still problem? It is still problem. Let's rename this. Okay, so now here I should be able to return the problems, and this will be the same. All right. Why am I bothering to rename this? I'm demonstrating moving in the smallest steps I can to say, you know what, I still have these things. I have one test that's talking to these. I have other tests. I guess they're disabled though, talking to these. Yeah, these are in disabled tests. So I really shouldn't concern myself with this. Okay. I should be able to just go like this. And in fact, now, okay, keep going. Don't get off track. This is where if we were working in an ensemble, instead of one person sort of getting distracted by things and saying, oh, you know, there's a rabbit. I'm going to follow that rabbit down the hole. The navigator might get distracted, and the rest of the ensemble could say, you know, let's stay on target. Let's put that on the list for later. We'll get there, but can we stay up focused? And the navigator can say, okay, yeah, you're right. The driver, of course, is just doing whatever the navigator asks. So this would work a lot better if we were actually sitting together and working on this. But let's keep going. So I have 0 entries with no problems. And these are also scaffolding tests. I expect this test will eventually disappear, but it's helping me get started. Okay, now let's move on to, no, I've got changes here. Let's see what the changes are. Okay, so it's more renaming. All right, so that's one. Let's now bring this other one into play. By removing the disabling, this will now fail, and the failure should say, I expect it to say, calling my shot, which is another TDD practice. I expect the assertion will be empty array is not equal to P1, P2. Good. Red. Next, green. To get this to pass. And I don't think anything is calling this anymore, but let's forget that. To get this to pass, I can just add the problems into here, right? I can take the entry problems. Here we go. And the quickest way I can do this is by saying, just slap in the overwrite the property. I'm not appending yet. I'm doing the simplest darn thing that passes. Good. I've gone from red to green. Is there anything I want to refactor? Nothing here yet. Actually, there is. I don't think anything is calling this anymore. Okay, so that's gone. Problems is now being accumulated here. Well, it's not being accumulated. It's being overwritten. Is there anything I want to change here? And here I have some duplicate code in the assertion. It doesn't matter with the empty case, but it will matter down here once we get to uniquing. And that is that the assertion is taking the result, which is SUT problems, and sorting it and comparing it to a sorted thing. This is crying out for a helper of some kind, or using Swift Hamcrest. But I'm going to avoid Hamcrest for now. I may show you some other time. So let's create a helper. Let's call it I like calling them assert something. Assert What did it say in Hamcrest? Contains in any order or equal in any order, has items in any order. It's not contains. I really want it to be, oops, come back here. Assert equals in any order. And it could be, I could take two arrays of strings like that. And I could say, take the actual sorted and compare it to the expected sorted. Now, even though breadcrumbs, failure breadcrumbs work in Xcode, I'm not sure how they behave in app code, and I know they don't work in on build systems. Let's see how it goes. Let's start with this simple thing and say assert equals in any order. The actual is the result, and the expected is P1, P2. Right? It's just gonna, whoop. Surprise! Oh. That's better. So now I have a helper that I can call like that. Except here it should be empty. All right. We'll refine this as we go, but this seems like a good refactoring. And what you're seeing here is the fanatical devotion to refactoring that takes place in refactoring. Refactoring is not an activity that we get permission from the product owner to say, I need to refactor something. It is something you do every single step. And here I'm focused entirely, as you can see, on the test code. I want the test code to be really expressive. I want it to have the clearest intent. So this is good. Let me move this helper down a notch, and that should still be fine. And in fact, there's no need for the result now. And what I want is I want to inline this, and unfortunately, there's no inline yet. And I keep asking, you can vote up, well, if you use app code, you can vote up my ticket for adding inline support. So let me inline manually. To do that, I copy, paste, run tests, and then clean up. Right? Let's do that again. Copy, paste, run tests. That gives us a warning here. Clean up. Good. This one's disabled, so I'll get there next. So now look at this. We're making these tests better and better. Assert equals in any order that the SUT problems starts out as empty with one entry. Goes like this, and I'll get to the next one next. So we create an entry, we accumulate it, and then we say SUT problems should be this. Excellent. what did I change in here? That was a lot of, oh, right. This whole thing was gathering one entry. So this is a feature. Gather one entry's problems. Cool. And rather than dealing with deduplication, it seems the next test should do this. I'm going off of what Mudshark said here. I should have multiple entries, and I should be able to just slap them in. So let's create another one and accumulate them both. And let's make this interesting. I want them sorted P1, P2, P3, P4. Except here, it will be, well, let me start this way, even though this will be incorrect. Or maybe it won't be incorrect. Maybe because the order is, that's right, it's not creating a sorted list. But I can make that clearer by saying, let's make this P3 and let's make this P1. So I have P3, P2, P1, P4. That should all come into something like this. So this I expect will fail. And going off of what Jitter Ted teaches, I'm not just going to say it should fail. How should it fail? It should fail by saying the first ones, the first entry, and this will be sorted, so it'll say P2, P3 is not equal to P1, P2, P3, P4. That's me calling my shot. I'm wrong. I get surprised because it wasn't the first entry, it's the last entry that gets kept. That's okay. So I learned something by, wow, this is really cool. Ted, if you see this, what I learned just now is not that the test failed, but that it failed in a different way than I expected. And because I stated my expectation, that reminded me of what it's doing is not grabbing the first one, but grabbing the latest one, which refines my understanding and knowledge of what the code actually does. This is awesome. So we can fix this by doing an append. Not an append. I want to append the contents of. Let's see if this works. And I predict this will pass. Great. Red, green. Is there anything to refactor? Yes, I don't like that. I don't like this var being exposed. I'd rather have declare it private set. So this is just a pure refactoring to say you can't set it from the outside. Answer Accumulator can set it, but from the outside, sorry, you can't set it, but you can read it. This should still pass. All right. So now this is gather problems from multiple entries. And now I come to the one that I thought of in the first place, which now turns out to be, what, the fourth test? This is so cool. I started down here, worked my way backwards, realized I should follow zombies, 0, 1, many. Let me pull that up for you in case you're not familiar with that. TDD with zombies. TDD guided by zombies. And I'll share this over in the chat. So now we want to deal with duplication with multiple entries containing duplicates. With duplicates should gather list of unique problems. It's more like shoot, I almost had the term on the tip of my tongue. Should gather problems removing duplicates, ignoring duplicates, distinct. That's better than unique. Thank you. Let's roll with that. Okay. All right, let me enable this. And I predict this will fail because it will say, this is, oh, let me use the assertion. I predict that this will say P1, P2, P2, P3 is not equal to P1, P2, P3. Let's find out. Good. My understanding, so I validated my understanding. Now we are red. Let's get to green. ASAP. How to do this? What do you think? I'm open to suggestions. I'm positive that there's a higher order function that will let me do this, but I don't know what it is. Is there a set type? Yes, there is. That would certainly solve the problem. It might sort of break the assertions I have right now, but that is basically the idea, right? Yeah, rather than, it's like getting my data types right. Let me see if I can't make a set. I say that, is it like this? Set of strings. And I'm a little surprised here. I didn't realize that that was the format. I thought it would be something else, but let me just compile just to be sure. All right. Then if I say problem set, what can I ask it to do? Not sure. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pull up documentation here. Unordered set of unique elements. Perfect. set operations contains you can modify a set in place with form union. That sounds like what I need. Form union from the other set. So I need to take the entry problems and turn it into a set. Can I do that by saying make this from an array, not an array literal, I don't know, from that. First, let's see if this compiles. And now, what if I go to the failure? Oh, I've got a problem with the helper, as you can see. In Xcode, it would show probably that this is the line that failed. At least it would leave breadcrumbs showing, a trail backwards. But that's not how it works in app code, and that's not how it works in continuous integration build systems. So let me add the test helper, and that should clear that out and point to the right. No, because I need to say file line. I need to pass the file line arguments that I just added down to the assertion. And now this should go right to the correct line. Good. And so what I want is the problem set. And let's see. Oh, I can't do this. In fact, I no longer need this. Well, this is interesting. All right, let's go back to Dash and see, how do I make, there was some sort of init from a sequence. Okay. So let's not use this assertion. In fact, it may go away. But let's say we want the problem set on the one hand and a set of string with an array literal like that. And the question is, if I do this, that's not working. Cannot pass array of type string as variadic arguments of type like this. And it passes. It passes. This is very interesting. I'm no longer using that. It's pointing that out with the highlighting there. Cool. So I did all that work, but it wasn't much. You saw how quickly I slapped in the test helper because I don't have to type this stuff. That's one thing. Your fluency with your IDE, including making good code snippets and using them well. We say typing isn't the bottleneck in coding, but shoot, what's his name? Twitter. I just retweeted him the other day. Excuse me a second. Said, yeah, typing isn't the bottleneck when it comes to coding. However, when it comes to problem solving, if you're going down a path, the closer you can keep your brain solve around sort of the higher order problem and away from the lower order details, the faster you can move. And so it becomes really important to get really good at your IDE, good at shortcuts, and use snippets or templates and make your own. In fact, let me put in a quick plug for my templates here. I have templates, snippets for Xcode, live templates for app code. Here are the Swift ones that I like, that I've made, that I make available to you. Various things, and you saw I used test helper to generate the file and line parameters without typing them, because I do that over and over and over again. You can get these off of my blog by going to qualitycoding.org and hitting Get Code Snippets. Let me put that in the chat. Okay, well, I got it to pass, but now we have problems and problem set. I think I can switch these. I don't like having to do all this stuff. I don't know if I need to be that explicit. Let's see. It infers it just fine. You know what? I don't need a helper anymore. That's clear enough. So let's switch these over. So what I'm doing now is we have problems, which is just appending to the end of a list, and we have problems set. They are in parallel. I put down the off of Mudshark's suggestion to use a set type. I put that down, but the old stuff is still talking to the array. And now I want to, so these are running in parallel. I've got a solution coming, and now I need to switch things over one by one, and then I can get rid of the old thing. So let me grab this assertion and put it in here and say P4. And I expect this to pass, and then I can get rid of the old one. Let's do this again. Get rid of P1 and P2. This should pass. Get rid of that. And finally, this one. This is the last use of problems. And this will be an empty set of string. And now I can get rid of that. And now nothing is using this. So I get rid of that. And now nothing is using this. Yep. Your set suggestion is saving my butt. Why should I reinvent the wheel? Silly John. Okay, so now the only place that is using this original problems is back here. If I remove this, this test should all pass because nothing is referring to it. And now I can pop off the last bit. And now I can rename this. Excellent. And in fact, I learned I don't have to be that explicit. I can just call it a set of problems like that because it infers the type. Yay! All right, that is enough for one day of live coding. let's look back over what we just did. I started at the overly complicated test because that was sort of like, that's my end goal. And worked backwards, and we created these scaffolding tests, which I may keep. A lot of times with scaffolding tests, you can get rid of them. But, you know, honestly, I'm not going to have no accumulation. Otherwise, I know I have survey results. Let me first check in what I have here. So this is the switch from an array to a set, so that I get distinct answers. So that's a feature. Gather distinct problems by using set. I think this test no longer adds value because it's just not realistic. So I'm going to get rid of it. I thank it and get rid of it. I don't think this adds value either. Or this one. We get back to the original one I got to, but they all served their purpose. See, if the reason I can do this is if this one fails, I know this one will also fail. I'm left with the one that I had in mind to start with, but it's expressed better, and we got there in smaller steps by using scaffolding and using zombies. All right, this is awesome. Thank you so much for your help, for good suggestions, and see, you can, the power of TDD and working in a, albeit not immediate ensemble, but we have this chat that lets you give me suggestions, even if you don't know Swift. If you're familiar with just good TDD or even just good coding, you can be part of an ensemble. In fact, in an ensemble, you don't even have to be a coder to be part of the programming. All right. I think I'm clean. Nothing to commit. Oh, I do have something. I got rid of scaffolding tests. Okay, so this is a test-only change. So I'll say remove scaffolding of around distinct problems. And there. And now we're done. Thanks for coming. I hope this was instructive, and you can follow me on the various places that you see right there next to me. If you're watching this on YouTube, give it a like and hit the bell and all that stuff. Thanks again. Have a great day. Go out there and code some good stuff.